Year marches on. All right. I think that should be going now. Welcome to the BrainDrive weekly development live stream call. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. I'm Dave Waring and I handle the operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm Dave Jones, and I handle the technical side of the operations here at BrainDrive.
Great. As I said, our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned AI system, and we're starting with the foundation of that, which is our MIT licensed self-hosted AI system called BrainDrive. As you can see on the screen here, we have a Chat GPT-like chat experience as the default experience, but you can do a whole lot more with this than you can with Chat GPT. And that starts with your ownership and control and your freedom. So this, what you're seeing on the screen here is running locally on my own computer. I could host this in the cloud. I can run this wherever I want. And that means I have full control over my AI system. That includes any data that I upload into this. It's all hosted here locally on my own computer. And if we weren't doing a live stream right now, I could turn off the internet, select a local model that I've downloaded on my machine, which this model is running locally on my machine. I don't even need the internet to use it. Tell me a joke, and that's going to respond back. And once the model loads, it takes a
Yeah,
second sometimes to get the model loaded. There we go. And you'll see even tell me another joke. Once that model's loaded up, it's even faster. At least it normally is.
yeah,
All right, and as you can see here, it's actually responding in pirate slang, and that's because I'm using the persona system that we have in BrainDrive, and I've created a persona here called Pirate. Told it to respond to all prompts in pirate slang, but you can put very detailed prompts in there, a research assistant, a health coach, whatever you want to put in there. You can personalize your system with custom system prompts. And that's all locally running AI models, but you're not limited to only locally running AI models. If you want to have a chat for something that you don't really care about, the privacy of it, you can still use the same models that are available in the state-of-the-art tools like ChatGPT, these big tech tools. But with a big difference, you're running them in your own AI system, so you're not locked into those big tech ChatGPT style interfaces and giving all your information over to them. Any information here, while you do have to send it to the API and the big tech company to process, it's still stored here locally on your computer. And we have a plugin manager. Dave has built us a modular plugin style architecture where anyone can build and launch a plugin to modify and change and make their brain drive as unique as they are. You can share those plugins, you deploy them on your own GitHub or via a local zip file, so there's no lock-in marketplace or app store or anything like that that you have to worry about being locked into, and a page builder that allows you to drag and drop those plugins onto the page and create these custom interfaces. And you're not limited to just chat. You can even build things such as games. Really, again, the only limit is your imagination with this. So that's a little short overview of the system. We also have our doc site over at docs.braindrive.ai for any developers that want to get involved, including our roadmap and contributing guidelines. And when you need support or just want to chat about the user-owned AI movement, we have our community at community.braindrive.ai. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dave to update us on the development progress from last week.
To say last week was sporadic would probably be the understatement of the century. We started into the week going one way, and pretty much by midweek, I don't want to say we did a U-turn, but we definitely took a right. Because the week I wanted to get started with what was the logging, cleaning up the chat interface, and the putting a more production feel for the end user. And sometimes things do happen for a reason, because of the production style. I was heading one way with it, and it was the right way. However, all of a sudden, thanks to Pulse, I read it every day. I do like that about OpenAI. We're going to have something similar for BrainDrive. because what it does, it takes your past chats and your past
Show March
conversation,
is on.
and
Ah.
and it says, "Hey, you might be interested in this." And what it is an extension of the conversation. One of those was like you were researching XYZ, and you might want to take a look at this code and see what's possible. And it was a different way of doing the production build. So I'm going to go test that way out, lean it out, or clean it up and see how it actually feels. But the end result would be instead of having a two-part system where you have two things and one of them can go wrong, they will be blended into a single moving object, the front end and the back end for the end user, so that they don't have possible more things to go wrong. And it'll just run smoother, faster, and cleaner in the end. Based on everything I'm seeing how it's running so far. So that was a good little pause there. The chat interface that Dave showed on the first plugin. If you got like into 10 chats, I noticed really quickly when I was playing around with it and using it because some things OpenAI wasn't doing for me. I do like to reverse engineer scripts. And hey, I'll be honest, it's what I went to college for. So it's not like it's illegal. But in doing it, sometimes OpenAI says, "Oh, we don't like what you're doing, and we're not going to do that for you," even though it's a completely acceptable thing to do. So I went to BrainDrive and I got about 10 messages in, and I noticed that in typing it slowed down. And this is the importance of using your own tools and products. So I really quick took a look at that, cleaned it up, and now it doesn't matter if I have 50 messages in, it's smooth as can be. So that's going to get released today, and we'll start working on the build. But the big thing was that little right turn we took in the fact of we have always been, since day one, we're going to be an AI company. And we want to stay with two people. We'll probably, I think our max that we said about a year ago was like five. But it's like, hey, if we can stay at two, it's ideal. And to do that, we knew we would have to be leveraging AI. And just so happens last week, if you watched last week's message, I talked about what the IBM CEO's message was, that the difference in AI between companies will be the ones that treat AI basically as a support tool, and then the ones that are defined by AI. And that was kind of that transition without us knowing took, because it's all of a sudden we were like, okay, let's start looking at number one, developing tools for our users so that we're not relying on just one small subsection of users to develop all the plugins, but instead we're going to turn anybody with an idea into a plugin developer. So if you see BrainDrive for the first time and you go, oh my God, I could do this with this if I just knew how to code. Well, we're going to throw the if you can add a code out of the window, and we're going to give you a little interface with a website, and you'll be able to go and say, hey, I have this neat idea for a plugin. And you type in your idea as best as you humanly can articulate, and out will come a plugin all zipped up, ready for you to go and install into BrainDrive, and you can go, oh my God, I'm a developer. Because it'll be that easy. The magic will be there. Dave's done it. And I can't tell you, it was like Christmas morning when I watched him. He was like, I did this.
Yeah. It's a
That's the
great
best.
feeling to create something
Yeah,
and, it's magic and
yep.
bringing that feeling to people, I think is going to be magical for them and for the project as well.
And the cool thing about what we did this week with this is, or last week, is Dave took one approach to developing a plugin, and we had Nav already working on another approach. And these were two completely different, I won't say isolated because Dave knew what Nav was doing, but he was just seeing if he could do it. But the actual what they were leveraging to do it with were very different. So we got to see the results. We got to really quickly learn what things would have to make sure that we're smarter than the user, because we know how to build a plugin. So we have to put that knowledge in there. But the end result was, in both cases, a plugin was developed, a plugin could be installed, and it was all based on just one, I won't say line of text, but one description of a plugin that they wanted to see. And it's only going to get stronger as we work on it and fine tune it. But that comes into what we now call BrainDrive code. And BrainDrive code will be um, an interface. Basically you can just type in what you want, and it's going to visually on the screen, the website, go through the process. Hey, I'm building your lifecycle manager. I'm creating these components for you. I'm now testing the lifecycle manager to make sure that it can install properly for you so that you don't have to install it and go, oh my God, this isn't even working. This is junk. We can skip that. It will tell you, hey, I'm cleaning up this mess. It's going to work for you. And at the end, it's just going to hand you a zip file. And the zip file is what you go when you go. We've done it several times with, I can share my screen and show you right here. If you go to the plugin manager, you can go here just like every other install, but instead of going to a GitHub repo, you'll be handed a zip file and you can go here to a local install, drop it here, hit install, which will be highlighted then, and it will install your plugin as if you were given it by a seasoned developer. And you can have all the feelings that we get. I know I get every time I develop something and it works. And I'm like, yes, I walk around the house happy, congratulate myself. We have a little parade. But it's that feeling you get. It's like I've always said, it's like, you know, they're my kids. When I create software, for me, it is like I took a kid, it graduated from high school, and you're in that first word's like survived. Really, it's like I got my kid out of high school. That's that feeling when I get with software, when I can take the software to a point where it's like this does what I imagined it to do. It can be everything I imagined to do. And now everybody can have that whole feeling because at the end of the day, it starts with the same thing. You start with the same idea I do. I want to plug in to do X, Y, Z. The difference is I might take a different route. You'll just have a little box to fill in and say go, and we'll go have coffee. And you come back and you're like, this is awesome. I want to do another one
Yep.
because it becomes like crack to you. Um, so that is the what we call BrainDrive code.
I think another interesting thing, if you just want to stop sharing for
Yep,
a minute, Dave, that I've been thinking about because I've been building. Now that these agentic coding tools are good enough to build things, I've been building things off of BrainDrive to see what that feels like, and then
yep,
building things on BrainDrive to see what that feels like. And I think a huge difference is going to be when you're building plugins on BrainDrive, it's the same login, it's the same
yep,
authentication system, and all of that. It's the same databases. The your BrainDrive has access to all those things.
yep,
And so you're going to get a compounding effect when building out your applications on BrainDrive that you're not going to get if you're building a bunch of separate applications. And that's going to be true at the individual level because each new plugin that you build is going to be able to leverage the last
yep,
plugins and the data that you've been accumulating on your BrainDrive. But I think it's also going to be true at the community level because you're going to be able to share these plugins a lot easier than you are giving someone their own setup for a vibe coded piece of software or even a non-vibe coded piece of software like is happening right now with the replets of the world, if that makes
yep.
sense.
Yeah, because like the RAG is a good example. The RAG system sits behind. It's a service basically, and you have a plugin to talk with it, which is the chat plugin. But if you had a guardrailed system in mind that you wanted to leverage your data with, and I'll throw recipes out there. Let's say you had recipes in your RAG system, instead of just handing a blank canvas for the AI to sprawl the information on, you could create something like an interface that'll actually give you a certain type of list and it will take the information from your RAG. The AI will make sure that it conforms to what you're looking for an output, and then it'll display exactly like you want. So if you wanted to have one of the ingredients as an icon when it describes the list of everything, you could do that kind of thing. And that's when you start incorporating and leveraging, like Dave said, compounding. Now you're leveraging a RAG system you didn't even develop. You just developed your little plugin that's using it now. So you're able to take something somebody else did and make it part of your system. So you're getting exactly what you want, how you want, as if you had an entire dev team sitting behind you and going, what's next? And
Amazing.
that was our goal 6 months ago. Dave talked about it. He's like, could we get to this point? And I was like, well, first thing is like, well, we'd probably actually get there by layers. Number one, it would be like, well, we'd get to the models to get to the point where we could do X, and then it'll take a little bit Y to do Y, and then finally something will happen with Z. And in truth, what happened was it just went X, Y, Z. It was like almost it's like as soon as Codex hit 5 and 5.1 and 5.2. As soon as Claude went, okay, we're gonna want to one up you over here, and we're gonna do, Sonnet for whatever they have, a billion, and but mostly Claude code, because where Claude has always been a front runner is on their intent. And they really have mastered that. And for the non-coders, that's a dream. And so we want to leverage that dream to manifest people's plugins. And that's what the goal of basically BrainDrive code is.
Great.
Yep.
And that's been a big topic of discussion. I want to actually dig into some of the stuff that I've been researching on that for discussion for today. But before we do that, is there other things you want to update on?
We can talk a little bit about Foundry if you wanted, but that's a whole different ball of wax. Nav and I are approaching the same problem from a different end result. Because what Nav's doing is he wants to help every user build a plugin. And that's there's a lot of guardrails there, so that people don't get off the reservation. It's like you're sitting down to that interface for one purpose. For me, I'm like in line with a lot of people. I want an entire dev team that I control. I have been coding for 30 years. I can design, but now it's time to delegate and duplicate. So for me, I need not, because I watched Dave. There's an example. If you see Dave getting going right now on his terminal, he like trying to flip around which terminal did I put this on, and where do I have that? Same thing I go through right now too. It's like I have several machines. I have on some of them, I have several VMs, and each one has their own terminal like that. And that's becoming chaotic, messy, and I'm spending a lot of time looking than doing. So this comes where I haven't quite figured out the right name I want to go with it yet. But right now I think I'm going with BrainDrive Synergy for to be the actual master name, because I have a whole bunch of names up for each component and like that. So I think the overall name right now is BrainDrive Synergy. The front end, which I can start to show now of it. Let's share a bit. This is the first piece of the front end. And what this is going to be is a small window
Ooh,
into.
Command Center is a nice that has a nice ring to it as well.
True. Yeah, true. Like I said, I'm just feeling I'm not it's like that's like the burning in the back of my head. I know when I like I said, when I hit that name that just goes boom, there you go.
Yeah.
But I call this piece Foundry, because it's basically the hub of working. And inside of this will be on each one of my servers will be a small piece that I call the fulcrum. And that's basically pulling all the levers and everything like that. And then that will direct a piece I call BrainDrive Forge. And that's where the coding agent sits and does the work that I want done. But on Foundry will be an interface, and I will have cards for every one of these working. And I will be able to see at one glimpse, which will soon be a 34-inch widescreen monitor, so I can see them all in one viewing point of what everything's doing, where the stops are, where the problems are, where do I know I need to go next? And that is my ability to, as one person, to delegate 9 things at once. And that is, I think, AI at its pinnacle right there, because that's when we get to the Matrix. Everybody, if you ever, no, not Matrix, Swordfish. I remember that movie for one big reason, because they show, was it Hugh Jackman when he starts working and he has a screen with 9 monitors right there. And since I've been there, since I
Yeah.
see that, that's been my like goal. But I realized that's a nightmare, because I already have 6, and I don't. And 6 I don't need. I need one. I need one web interface that allows me to go from, okay, I see all my machines working. Now I want to go to machine X very easily. I don't have to open up terminals anymore. I want it just right built into it, and I can go, okay, let's run a test to make sure that that code that we just did works. Let's test it out. Let's validate it. And now let's go ahead and now we're going to go to version 2 really quick, because when you're moving that fast and that many pieces, you don't stop. You just keep going. And that is how I think people need to start looking at AI, not from the one-on-one we're used to, because right now everybody has a terminal window open. And you see this with Ralph. If anybody know that the Ralph Wiggins loop, Dave showed it to me not long ago, and I started digesting it. And everybody's developing it the same. Everybody different language. There's so many iterations of it. It's crazy right now. But everybody is approaching it from a one-on-one. I'm one person talking to one AI. Why can't one person talk to multiple AIs and they start divvying up the work, or you divvy up the work based on however you design? And before you know it, it's like you have a team. And a team of developers, that could be unstoppable, especially the way the models are starting to turn around and able to be leveraged. And that's where we're
And
working
how
on.
do you think this will change open source?
It'll be unstoppable. It literally will become, because the difference between enterprise, which I've worked at, and open source, which I've worked at, is enterprise. You have a team. All enterprise projects are teams. Even when they have a little, like Microsoft is a good example. They have teams for everything. And then if you have a side project, that's even a team itself called Garage type things. It's like, I mean, you have red teams. Everybody has their own little company based on their names to it. But now one person becomes the team, because as they what we won't have to hire any developers. We won't have to leverage out to any, Upwork. Your machines become Upwork. Your AI agents, they become Upwork, especially when you look in these fine-tuned models. We'll talk about like Vercel. They're really pushing on being able to turn a JSON file into a UI. That's been their big push on skills and being able to force models into their thought process. As new models come out that focus on this, you could have team members that all of a sudden are designing your UIs. Their whole focus is, here's the UI you wanted. It's a JSON. It's handing it over to the other coworker who is doing the fast API backend for it. And then you have another module that, hey, he's doing the Docker, making sure the build script's coming together. And 1/3 of the time, you have a complete product out that would have normally took a team or you forever.
Yeah, and I think the big problem with a lot of open source in general is there's like how do you coordinate, this decentralized community? And I think AI at its heart is a coordination technology and allows you to, handle very complex coordination issues. And I think, putting a system like Foundry or whatever you end up calling it at the center of this, where, people can just come in and say, I found a bug, and Foundry goes back and says, okay, tell us what the bug is. Can you upload a screenshot? Blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. Initially, that comes to you as the maintainer, and you approve, Foundry to go work on it. But, the more patterns you have of that, the more that
Yep.
that can just be automated. And this way, people don't have to wait. Like, can you imagine if you find a bug in like a major open source project like BrainDrive in the future, and instead of having to submit it and wait and branching and blah, 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 it's just like 2 minutes later, it's fixed. You know
Yeah,
what I
because
mean?
that started to have when I was starting to put the pieces together this weekend, is imagining you have Forge working, finding a problem, and instead of me even having to like start it up, I just tell it, hey, give me a screenshot of the plugin you just fixed. And so I can see it without actually even going to BrainDrive at all, because I'm really lazy today for whatever reason. Who knows? I'm working on a bunch of things. But when you're using the MCP servers like Playwright and all like that, you can start to leverage what they do that most people don't even scrape on, is like the ability to take a screenshot without ever doing anything like that. So
Yep.
suddenly it's like, hey, it's saying I'm fixed, and here's the proof.
Yep.
So it's like now, okay, I feel more confident about what my agent's doing. Next time it's like, oh, there's an issue like coming through. I just put it on autopilot. I want to see what you're going to do today.
Right. And I think this is where, a community-based project, we can also build in, we can say like submit your bug, and it's like it sends a back a thing and says, our AI agent believes it's fixed this. Do you
Yep.
mind double checking for us and
Yep.
letting Dave, letting the maintainers know if it's not fixed so we can improve the system and blah blah blah. And also that allow them to catch themselves. The thing they thought they said, they
Yep.
said something, the AI did it, and then they realized, ooh, that's not exactly what I meant, or I should have said it differently. And they can work out their own bugs, the community, um, and that's whatever, no one wants to wait, you know
Yep.
what I mean, for that. So, giving the community the ability to leverage that power of open source that we've always had, but without a lot of the delays and the coordination issues with a tool like this and putting it at the center of these open source projects. I think, like you said at the beginning, like that's going to make open source unstoppable.
Because, well, see, because my vision, we got a ways to get there. both BrainDrive and models. But my vision is if you have a problem or a bug, you'd be able to put the bug into on our GitHub, write it out. This is what's happening, XYZ. You go get coffee and you come back. And the AI is not just responded, hey, I have a question. I've already have a PR fix for you.
Right.
I need you to, this is the command so that you can actually download that code to your computer, run it. Let me know if you're validated this as fixed.
Right.
And you do follow instructions. It's right. Number one, that's the first key right there. And you're like, oh my God, great. You check it off as the owner of that, or the stockholder shareholder. That's the word I'm looking for, of that issue. You check it off. It goes away. It's done. And then once that happens, there's an agent sitting there watching it and said, okay, this has been validated as fixed. And we'll probably have additional code reviews before it's the main, but then it hits me and it says, okay, this PR was done. It's validated by the user. He said it works for him. Now my turn to go through, and this is where that little hand holding because I ain't going to trust AI that much. But I just follow the same sequence that the user did. I go through, I make sure that it's fixed. I sit there and look at it to make sure it's not messing up something else because I'm sure neither one of those two parties, the AI or the user, really delved into what else am I going to mess with this.
Yeah.
Um, but it does speed up that entire process from a couple of days to the user's happy within moments, which immediate gratification is immense. And then to me pushing into the main on the next PR because and I didn't have to do anything except for validate.
Yeah, and you can imagine like, okay, I'm using a closed source piece of software and I need this bug fixed. What that's going to feel like, or any project that doesn't have this AI
Yep.
powered, coordinator is just going to feel like, they're riding a bicycle where we're driving a Formula One car.
Yeah, AI has to get the people developing with AI have to get out of the one for one mentality and figure out how to turn AI into the many and
Yeah,
how and without cluttering your desktop. Their desktop has to be reserved for what's important,
yeah,
not for the noise.
right,
Because it'll be like email eventually, where if you build it like an email where the AI is going to email you and say, "Hey, I'm done with this." Now you're going to be an email manager. You
right.
need an interface that handles that for you. It takes the email to the equation and it just says you watch a red light go to a yellow light. That means it's in testing to now it's green. Okay, it's done. I can visually pop through those that instantly with
Yeah.
that kind of notification.
Super cool.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, lots of ramifications here. I think we're trying to be at the bleeding edge of this. I think we are, but it's really hard to wrap your head around the implications of all this. But we're running at it hard, and it's going to be a big deal for BrainDrive.
Yeah, because I would have never thought to have this type of problem this soon.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I got to admit, I caught myself as well. It's like even when doing BrainDrive Forge, and I looked at how everybody was doing Ralph, and I was almost getting ready to follow the same path as everybody else. But it was like thank God I'm a developer, and I stop and take a walk first, because in doing that I realized, well, the first thing I need to do is I need to pick a language that's going to fit what I want to accomplish. That has to be the perfect language. Because I watched one guy do and I like the Ralph loops just so anybody knows, because what it does, it turns just a single process of your AI communication into iterations to ensure that the results that you're getting are actually have been proof of concept and worked through, and you can have skills that go with it to actually fine tune it a little bit more. Um, but the ability for that to all come together now and to go from a one to one to many, and then using the best languages possible so that you get the most out of it and as accurately as possible. Because, like I said, the reporting and that communication between Foundry all the way down to Forge is what's going to be the pivotal part.
Awesome. So, this crossing the chasm or whatever we're calling it, of, the coding agents and the agentic capabilities of these models getting good enough where they can work with high quality autonomously on a lot of different types of projects and problems, it has several implications. One is what Dave's talking about for the open source project. It allows us to really accelerate development because we can rely on AI to a much greater degree than we could before, and that compounds the talent that we have on the engineering side, which right now is Dave and Nav, but
Yeah.
hopefully In the future, it's a lot of the community as well. We can do that across the business as well and the project as well. Just, everything that's happening now in the code space, I think basically is going to apply to any work you're doing on a computer
Yep.
as we go forward. So for the project, for the business, for the community, that's a big deal. I think for BrainDrive itself, the ability to build plugins, we used to talk about, you could be an owner, but if you want to be a builder, then you needed technical
Yep.
experience. And I think that requirement, our goal is will go away if you own your BrainDrive, if you're a user of BrainDrive, which we call an owner, a
Hmm.
BrainDrive owner. Since you own your AI system, you shouldn't have to have any development skills or even open the terminal to build the plugin that you want to build. And that's not just going to be from a code standpoint, it's also going to be from the upfront planning and speccing and all
Yep.
of that to really help BrainDrive owners bring their vision to life and in enough specific detail that the AI can produce, what it's capable of producing. So that's, Foundry. BrainDrive code,
Yep.
and there's BrainDrive itself,
Yep.
which we've talked a little bit about. And I have a document on that from our conversation. But I think this also means you need to be able to build plugins for BrainDrive. That's going to be BrainDrive code, or if you want to use the coding agent of your choice, whether
Yep.
that's Codex, Claude Code, Open Code, or whatever, you can do that now. But then there is once you have a plugin, a lot of those plugins we're going to want to have agentic capabilities,
Yep.
right, within BrainDrive.
Yes.
So Dave and I had a conversation about this, a brief conversation, and I had the AI put together this document here that I figured we could use the rest of the call to go through unless
Yep.
there's something else you wanted to talk
Nope.
about,
Nope.
Dave.
I'm good.
Okay. So core infrastructure needed, tool
Yep.
calling, connectors, and the authorization framework. Does this
Yep.
sound right to you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it everything is going to need an authentication layer, so I really didn't separate it. But even we were talking yesterday, the tool calling and how MCPs and then connectors, because it's like as soon as you're doing something, you want to be on Google Drive, or you want to be leveraging GitHub, and like we got PRs, you're going to need tokens and stuff like that. So that just came instinctively to the authorization level right there.
Okay. I think the I know we're not BrainDrive is built with multi-user authentication in mind,
Yep.
right? But it's not battle tested yet or,
Yep.
ready for prime time. But I think that foresight of Dave building BrainDrive with that capability is going to be a big deal here because I think you're going to want to have an administrator for a company using
Yep.
BrainDrive or people using BrainDrive as a team. You're going to want to have different permissions across the board, but
Mhm.
especially once we get into this, like the AI can take actions on your behalf.
Expect because we talked about when we what was it, probably December, we were saying, hey, what 5 things do we need to work on to really push BrainDrive to next the user level permissions and that entire thing scoped out? Because right now the basic infancy is there. It has tenant architecture. I use for testing multiple users all the time. So I know it works in that capacity. There is a little permissions needs to be handled almost completely, and that the document went into. But when we start getting BrainDrive Forge in action, we were looking at a few months worth of work for that list. I'm gonna be honest, that's gonna chew through this thing like there was no tomorrow, based
I
on what
believe it.
I'm seeing from Forge.
I believe it. All right. So that's let me just okay. So
Yep,
tool calling MCP
yep,
integration. So let me make sure I understand this. So a model needs the ability to call tools, right? Not all models have that ability.
correct.
And we need BrainDrive to be able to handle a model that calls tools, correct?
Correct. And
And right,
it does because we used a few in our chats that are tool calling. Quins are very good about doing tool calling. Um, and the key difference though is handing that infrastructure JSON basically to the AI to sell it, to tell it, hey, you have calling capabilities. These are the tools at your disposal. You can utilize them based on your needs.
And
And
this
that's,
is the BrainDrive tool registry.
yep,
Okay. And then a standardized tool interface.
that's that JSON we have. It's like that little communication level between BrainDrive and the model.
And the result handling, this is, we want that to be as much as possible chat back to the
Yep,
user, right?
yep.
How we need to build these things or,
No, yeah, we do need to build them. However, none of them are difficult. It's like those are dime a dozen.
okay? Connectors layer, the
Yep.
gold. So why did you say this is the gold?
Um, eh, because the ability to, that's what gets you out of brain drive. And brain drive's power is the ability to not just be in front of you, but to have a finger that reaches out to your Google Drive or your GitHub. Let's say for me, I develop a plugin for monitoring brain drive as a project. I want to do it. I don't want to worry about another browser tab open. I want brain drive to do it for me so that when I, let's say we have contributors, we have tons of users, we have issues popping up. And so when my brain drive comes up and I want to look at that tab, it shows me I have three new issues from when I last looked last night. I want to know the three new ones.
Right. And
Not,
you said at the beginning it gets you out of BrainDrive, but I think what you mean is it allows you to operate outside of
yeah,
BrainDrive from your BrainDrive so you
yep,
don't have to leave BrainDrive.
exactly,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think this is an underappreciated, I think this is one of those things when you look back on history, the fact that we currently go out to all these software providers as the user of
yep,
those software and have our data and everything all over the place instead of those providers coming to us, you know
yep,
what I mean, is going to be seen as a crazy thing. Like if all of your data is in your brain drive and it's permissioned accordingly and private, like you don't have to fill out. I mean, how many times do you fill out the same form with the same exact information over and over and over
yep.
again? It's ridiculous, right? And
And
then,
most of them, we're getting to, most of them under the scenes have these tokens that you can generate as a user. So you don't have to worry about username and password. You just take the token from like GitHub. We'll use that as an example. You go into the security, you say, give me a token. You'll give it to BrainDrive. And that's basically saying that you have given BrainDrive permission to do XYZ that you set up on GitHub. So we're not taking permission. We're not extending it into places where you didn't want it to be. You set that permission up. You simply gave us a token, treat it like a password, like no username. You can cancel it anytime. You have complete
yeah.
control.
And you
And
say us, but you really mean the brain drive owner because
yeah,
it's
the
not
BrainDrive,
us. We
yeah,
don't have
yeah,
any control over
yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
Like it's your brain drive. It's sitting on your
Us
computer.
as an owners, we don't
Yeah.
have to worry about it.
Brain drive owners. Yep. Yep. Great. It is hard because when you talk to the AI, like you kind of have to use user because that's just the vernacular
Mhm.
because everybody's a user of software
Yeah.
currently, but we're trying to flip that dynamic on its
Yep.
head. So we're trying to get ourselves in the mind. And I think we were in the mind of owners, but as we started coding this stuff, like you just have to say user, else it
Yeah.
confuses the AI. So anyway, all right. So that's what allows BrainDrive to connect to your Google Drive, to connect to GitHub, to
Yep.
connect to all these different things, and then the agentic capabilities of being able to take action in those
Yep.
places, right? That's why this is the gold or where the magic is. So
And you use a good example when you're using your GitHub commands because you don't ever want to learn GitHub, and I get it as a user. As a developer, I hate learning it because it's always like, am I going to mess something up? But as you say, it's like I want you to commit this. In English, you're telling the AI commit whatever I'm doing into GitHub, and
yes,
it goes through and it says, okay, the user wants me to commit this. These are the commands to do this. You didn't have to learn them. You didn't
no,
care. In
no
fact, you
idea.
don't even have to say commit. You could say, hey, save this to GitHub.
Yeah,
You could keep with your own terms that you know. And that's where, like I said, that's where the magic, and you call it gold, it's gold because that's where you have two things communicating. In every instance of human evolution, that has been the gold when you can all of a sudden ideas and action can get out of one person's head or hands into another. You can leverage yourself now.
absolutely. Okay, so how much work is this?
Okay, this will take a little work in the aspect because all we're going to do is create a standard. This is what the scheme looks like when you for a token and for the communication where the address is that it's going to connect to do it. Then after that, it's a matter of, okay, we're going to apply this to GitHub. We're going to apply this to Google Drive. We're going to apply this to Hotmail or Azure or whatever, the extension, but there are tons. I'll take one off the loop. Just say you want to do a plugin that deals with Discord. Dave hates it, but it's a good example of this because they're having chats and you just want to know stuff that's going on over there. Or let's say you have a Discord bot. You built it in BrainDrive, and now you want to interface so you can sit there and watch it as it goes through its actions. And so you just give it the token, and all of a sudden you have to just build that layer that says, hey, this is a Discord authorization token. This is a connector to Discord. This is how, so that when the communication happens between A and B, that little bridge right there, that's the little magic bridge of that communication layer between A and B. So what we have to do is make sure that it's as generic as possible. So the user almost just has to fill out a form. Here's all the information you want. Save it. Boom. They're up and going.
And what's the difference between MCPs and connectors?
Connectors is basically like a login between point A and point B. It's we'll call it an agentic simply because they kind of really started pushing it, but is the ability for an autonomous software to go reach out and touch something on a standard. So I want to get into GitHub, I want to do commands, but I'm not doing them, my agent's doing for me. That's using a connector. An MCP server is when the AI is given a task to do and it has tools and it reaches out through to an MCP server to conduct actions based on the tool
And a
requirements.
tool may need a connector.
True. It could hand off the tool. It's like, okay, I'm going to talk to GitHub for you to see if there's any issues ready for you that are done or have changed their status from what you've given me. And it'll compare the two. And it's like, okay, I just reached out. I touched it. I had authorization to touch it, to read it. And now it's like, okay. And then it hands that information back to the AI before you see it. It compares the new list versus the old list. And it's okay, we had two changes. All I'm going to give the user back are those two changes. And
Got it.
and then the user sees, okay, these statuses changes. What do you want to do about it?
Okay, so that this is a bit more work than this.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then action authorization framework.
That's basically based on the connector. And what's going to happen is you start filling out what it does. You start putting action. So like GitHub has all the GitHub commands. You have to have authorization level, permission levels, what it can do, what it can't do.
And
Like,
is that set in the GitHub example via the token on
yeah, yeah,
GitHub or
you can do it based on the token. You could have, let's say, when you have the connector screen where the user fills out the information, it could automatically, let's say, populate a list of permissions that'll be necessary. Like, let's say you did email. You want to make sure, they might have a create email, get email, read email, send email, delete email, save email. You might have a bunch of different permissions, and then the user can select what they want those permissions to be so that they can tell the AI, hey, you can read. I don't want you to send. So you can
yep.
actually control it at that. And
And
then when
that
the
potentially in the future could be a chat-based setup as
yep,
well, right?
yeah, exactly. Yes. First of all, initially we'll have to walk before we crawl, or crawl before you walk. But yes.
Okay. Execution patterns. What is an execution pattern?
Well,
Or did the AI make that up?
no, no, no. It's because in any action, there is a pattern. And half of software development is establishing what the pattern is so that you can programmatically do it. And this is where you're going to rely on AI a lot because in AI, you can actually hand it and say, hey, I'm going to send an email to Google. What's my checklist? And then it's going to hand you back a series of, okay, make sure that the username is, what the email is for coming from. Make sure it's the right one. We need the email to send it to. I need a title or a subject, and I need the information in the actual email. And then I need to make sure that it knows I need to check to see if I have a token so I can access it as well to send. And do I have send permission? And this is not involving the user at this point because the AI is telling it what it needs to do for an execution layer.
It's all in the
So,
back end.
yep.
Okay. So
Uh,
this is the self-checking
yep.
loop, the Ralph Wiggum pattern.
And this is where we get into the polymorphic routing because if you notice, we relied on the AI to take a single action, which is you're going to conduct an email send. We talked to the AI or the AI, and the AI told us, hey, these are the things that you're going to need. Where if I said to do this for Gmail versus doing this for Hotmail, they could have different standards that they want to see. Might have a different requirement, especially if like you get into blind copies and things like that. They might want to see it on a different structure. The polymorphic layer of this would come into play. The AI would say, hey, form this like this. Whereas we're doing Hotmail, no, oh, we need to form this like this, and it takes care of it for you.
Right. And polymorphic just means the steps evolve as you take each additional step.
Yep.
Okay. Context persistence.
Because we need to
You
remember
talked
this.
about it's actually not Claude, it's
Yeah.
Claude. Claude is taking the world by storm right now.
Yeah.
So that's what this should say.
It's interesting. I was looking at Claudebot. We have a lot of similarities between Claudebot in a
Agreed.
strange sense. It's like they took I'll call it the Telegraph, the IRC, the Discord, that world was just pure conversation through text with no standard of interface because they all changes based on what they're doing. Where we have created a standard interface for you to work within. You can
Well,
have a
I think
vision
the best of both worlds is what BrainDrive is, right?
because if you
It's
wanted to, yes, you could go that direction.
so, you want to operate on a standard interface that you own, control, and
Mm-hmm.
customize,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not beholden to whatever the interface
Yep.
provider wants you to be beholden to. You're beholden to yourself and what you want and
Yep.
what you want to create, and that can be anything.
Yes.
And you're not passing all your information through another service,
Yeah.
right? Unless you decide to.
Yeah. You would have to be
But
the gatekeeper on that.
at the same time, if you're a heavy WhatsApp user, you want to be able to access your AI system from WhatsApp, right?
Yep.
And BrainDrive's modular based architecture, there's nothing that's preventing you from doing that, right? We could have a plugin that allows WhatsApp to communicate with your BrainDrive AI system. And when you're on WhatsApp, you can use it and everything feeds back into the
Yep.
same database that you own and control.
Yes.
So to me, BrainDrive's the best of both worlds, but we have to only if we add this agentic capability.
But we were always going to plan to be there. It's like,
I agree, but we
yeah,
need to be there very
yeah,
quickly
oh,
now.
yes. That's why we got to develop tools that make multipliers.
Yeah, 100%. So that's what this
Yep.
is. All
Yep.
right, architecture options that the AI came back with.
Dave's favorite, he loves to be able to just chat. He wants to say, hey, I want you to send me an email, send it to XYZ, and here's the subject matter, and hand him this spreadsheet that I was working on
And this
yesterday.
is, I just talked to it, right?
Yeah.
I want the AI is a smart assistant that I wouldn't have an interface to interact with a smart assistant. I would just talk to them. And that's what I want to do with my brain drive. I
Yep.
just want to talk to it and have it do everything just like a smart assistant.
Yep. And like if you said, hey, I want to send it to Hotmail, it should be able to tell you, hey, Dave, you have a Gmail account and a
Yeah.
BrainDrive account. You don't have Hotmail.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, this is a strong, right? But we
Yep.
may hit architectural limits, it says.
We might, depending upon like what going on in the communication layer like that. But I do believe most of it should be handled from that chat window. It should be able to go, hey, you're doing X. And it goes, okay, I can do X. I'm going to do this. But if you tell it to do Y, it should be able to tell you that's out beyond my capabilities. But you do have to plug it installed to do that with.
Yeah, and to me, I don't need the chat interface to do anything besides chat. So if we have a dedicated agent layer that is just feeding the responses back to me,
Yep.
in natural language, to me, that seems like the best of both worlds, where we have a service or, I don't know, I don't think this would be part of the back end, right? Like this would be a service or, a
No,
dedicated
a service, okay, sir, meaning it is part of the back end because it's almost becomes
It
like,
wouldn't be part of core, is what I meant.
yeah, oh yeah. It'd be like RAG. Because RAG sits there and it's in the back end, but it's not part of the core. And what it's doing is saying, hey, you just asked a question, and I have some chunks or some documentation for you that would be perfect for what you're wanting right now. And the agentic layer would be the similar way. It intercepts. It says, hey, you asked to send an email. This is what I do.
Right.
So it'll wake up and it'll go, okay, I'm going to send this email and tells everybody, hold my beer. I got this.
Yep.
And it sends it and then it reports back. I sent the email to you. And would you like me to see if you wait for a reply?
Okay, and so option C is the best,
Yep.
which is it's hybrid. Chat
Yep.
remains the primary interface, and the agent mode is interacted when a task requires it. Now, we do expect everyone to be using this, which would be an argument to build it into the core, but then that expands the surface
Core.
area of the core dramatically, and we want to avoid that. So, I think doing it as an add-on service to BrainDrive would be the way to do it, right?
Yes, because of the fact that let's say we develop our agentic layer that does XYZ. And we're busy doing the core. We're busy doing, brain drive code and those like that. And then all of a sudden somebody pops up and goes, hey, I have the next Ralph. You want to be doing this. It does everything for email you've ever seen. One of our users all of a sudden goes, hey, I'm doing this. I need this now. I'm not waiting for Dave at all. And
Right.
so he gets out, he codes it, and he says, hey, community, if you want to use this, it's right here. And instead of waiting for us to incorporate it or build a plugin, everybody's like, hey, I'm going to install this alongside my other agent layer because you can have multiple. Why would you be restricted to one? And now you're able to not only do the tried and true, what you've been doing all the time, and now you have additional features thanks to a community member.
Amazing. All right, so that's that. What's already in place,
Yeah.
modular plugin architecture, the library integration, which Dave and I are working on,
Yep.
which is going to be access to the file system.
Yep.
The Scout, which is a test plugin, and the chat interface. Minimum viable agentic. I like that. I didn't come up with that. Tool calling interface for plugins.
Yep.
Plugins expose callable functions, the library integration complete, basic action loop, and then the permission system. To me, minimum viable agentic would be being able to CRUD the library, right? So if it can access the library files on your local system,
Hmm.
if it can pull context in from those documents into chat, it can traverse that file system and it understands the hierarchy of it, right? And the names and can look at the agent.md file in those. It can update, it can create a new document, it can update an existing document, it can delete a document. That to me would be minimum viable agentic for like a first step.
Yep.
And that seems very doable, right?
Yes.
Okay. Make it easy as the differentiator. All right. So we've discussed. I do want to understand Claude memory because I think they've done something really special there that it builds off of the file system approach that we're already working on.
Yep.
All right, so I think I can take this and update the spec and start putting together a build plan for this.
Yeah, and I have it up on my list to play with CloudBot to see what it's doing. Code, not really install it or not getting it run, but more the code, what they're doing, like with the memory, because there's no reason why we don't start to look at either A, enhancing our RAG system a little better, if that's the key answer to that, or some type of persistent memory service that exists right there that could actually become part of the agentic layer so that it knows, hey, I have RAG here. I also have upload documents.
That to me is the no-brainer. So I think RAG is you have a long bunch of documents, a
Yep,
bunch of chat histories, etc. You want to upload those, you want to have those documents remain, as part of the system
yep,
intact, and then you want them chunked and put in the embeddings
yep,
database, right?
yep,
And that is one module of the memory system that it can pull from, is
yes,
the embeddings database. Then you have the file system, and the file system is your structured memory that you, as the brain drive owner, are gardening,
yep,
right?
yep,
You're constantly
yeah,
working on the context that's within this file system with alongside your brain drive AI,
yep,
and you're improving the structure of it. It pulls some information. Oh, that's old, update it, blah, blah, blah. And the file system is like, that's the starting point for everything, right? But when the agent goes to the file system and it doesn't have a piece of information, or it's like, oh, you know, we just had a car accident, it knows go to the embeddings database or go and pull the contract, with my
yep,
insurance company and look at that and give me the information.
yep,
And then this is where also the connectors come in, where every service where you have your personal data, we can connect, the brain drive can connect to, and that also these external memory stores become part of your brain drive memory via that connector.
Yep. That's why Google Drive, you have, let's say a lot of people keep all their stuff on there, so they have it
Correct.
readily with like that. All of a sudden, that connector comes alive and says, "There you go."
Right. And I think, you know, if the structure is done correctly, you're going to be able to have the AI help you garden, right?
Yep.
So you'll garden your memory system, because you're going to have to update information, delete old information. That's the pruning and the weeding, but also you're going to have to set it up eventually and all of that. And I think this is where if you're using your brain drive, the AI is going to get to know you, and you're going to have a memory system, based on that file system, uh, embeddings database, and external connectors that's completely custom to you, even though it follows the same structure as everyone else's.
Yep. That's gold.
Amazing. All right, so we're at 10:57, so I think we'll leave it there unless there's anything you want to talk about, Dave.
Nope. Other than a busy week, hopefully I'd love to see next week we come along and we could see the infancy. I can't speak about code because that's Nav's little show he's running, but I know I want to have at least Forge talking with the front end, but mostly using Forge because that's going to be the pinnacle that needs to be the let's find everything wrong with it. So I already want to, as soon as it comes alive today, I want to see it start going into action. We're going to start getting some changes done, make it alive. And hey, we'll have a little test run, I hope, next Monday.
That'd be amazing. All right. And with that, a reminder, our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned AI system to big tech AI systems, that superior user-owned system. And we do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live streamed on YouTube. And we encourage the community to start to get involved as you discover the project. We also post the recordings over at our community at community.braindrive.ai. So we'd love to have you participate that in there as well. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.
Thank you.